Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. Now she clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in, by now you might have died. She stroked his pretty skin, and then she kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bit me, heavens why. You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
This is my first time back in Denmark in almost a decade. Copenhagen looks the same at first glance, but as I was walking around, I noticed some subtle differences.
So here's the reason why I couldn't get into the center of town. This is the main drag, the walking street in Copenhagen. And these barriers are just placed everywhere to prevent any potential terrorist running in there with a truck, just mowing people down like they've done, you know, in Germany and France and everywhere else. So, you know, it's definitely changed.
All right, so I'm passing yet another concrete barrier. See the guy on the right standing there? He's a plainclothes cop. He's guarding the synagogue to the left. There's like concrete barriers, there's police cars, there's police armed with machine guns. It's been like that ever since the terrorist attack.
That stood here, and we had two policemen was also standing here with machine guns. And then the terrorist came and
From this direction, and he came down here.
He came and he shot Dan like practically in the
face.
Dan had no chance. He died on the spot.
Europe is a battlefield, and our children are being slaughtered. Chaos, violence, and fear has made Europe unrecognizable. This is not the Europe I left 15 years ago. And to understand this transformation, I decided to walk in the footsteps of the terrorist who brought the carnage to Denmark.
On February 14th, Omar al-Hussein makes his way to the Kratundin Cultural Center, where his target, Mohammed cartoonist Lars Vilks, is set to speak at an event titled Art, Blasphemy, and Freedom of Expression.
Business as usual, I would say. It was, I thought. And no one expected something special to happen.
Omar makes his way to the main entrance, and this is where he unloads his gun.
And then just shortly after we had begun, we heard this noise. You know.
Then everybody go down to the floor. Except you.
I asked myself, why did this happen? Why did this terrorist attack the very same society who gave his parents shelter and him a future unattainable back in the Middle East?
This is how ethnic Danes are thinking, how could this happen in Denmark? But since I know the immigrants' environments kind of from the inside, we were all waiting for this to happen. We are just waiting, and we're also just waiting for the next event.
At the same time Denmark was mourning their dead, thousands from the migrant community were escorting the terrorist to his final resting place. So how is it this attack came as a shock to most of Denmark while the immigrant community seemed to anticipate it?
The youngsters are so upset and angry, so if they also have access to weapons, of course something will happen at some point. Because right now we just see riots that didn't include weapons, but of course somebody will act. I would say that the underlying causes in relation to what happened in February was actually the same as is behind the riots that we see from time to time in Denmark.
I once served as a sergeant at Sønderborg Sergeants Academy. Like most Danish army bases, it has since been converted into a refugee center. We decided to make a pit stop there on our way to Germany.
Where are you from?
I am from Iraq.
Iraq? Oh, okay.
To Iraq, I'm no Iraqi, all the Iraq. I'm Arbil, Awliad. Arbil, Kurdistan.
Okay.
Yes, I know all the Iraq.
Yeah, but Erbil is safe, right? No, I know, but
I had heard from several places that the people who come to Europe as refugees will go home on vacation to the countries they are allegedly fleeing from. Iraq is one of those countries. I went to Copenhagen Airport to find out how hard it is to get a ticket to Iraq, and more importantly, who is going on these trips.
So it depends on the time.
Yeah.
So it was Iraqi New Year 1 month ago. All flights were completely filled.
Okay.
So,
it's like hit or miss, or
yeah, but there's also Turkish Airlines going there, and there's 2 daily flights to Istanbul, and from there there's a lot of flights to Erbil. So Erbil. So if you just go online, you can.
Yeah, no, I know that. I was just wondering. I just landed, so I figured I'd ask. But so I mean, does it basically depend on if is tourist season minded? So if
not yet. It's not the high season now, peak season.
When does tourist season officially start then?
Season will begin in 2 months, but
okay,
so the peak season, yeah, the tourist season, but the peak season.
Yeah.
Did he just say there is a peak season going to Iraq? I went to confirm this at Iraqi Airways.
Okay, so but you said it's almost full, or okay, it's when does tourist season start? Is it
1st of April.
Okay, flying in there, that's pretty safe, right? Because the action
I guess so. We have flights to there, so I assume it's pretty safe.
So the tourists they're not worried, at least, huh?
No.
Okay.
But I didn't see so many tourists. It's more locals going there, and there's also Turkish Airlines going, but a bit expensive.
Locals as in, what do you mean locals?
Iraqis. It's Iraqis who are living here going there.
Going for holidays.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have tourists just going there and it's
many people
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, mate.
Very welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
You see the 3 guys standing over there? I wanted to hear straight from the horse's mouth if Iraqis were actually going home on holidays. So I went to go talk to them, hoping they were from there.
Excuse me. Any of you know anything about the flights going to Turkey?
My friend, Iraq.
Yeah. So you're going on vacation?
Yeah.
He's going on vacation. Okay.
In Arbil.
Yeah.
Ish?
Yeah.
Arbil?
Erbil is okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going for just vacation, so it's safe for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna get no. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Have a safe trip. All right.
Remember this guy from Erbil?
Iraq, I'm no Iraqi, all the Iraq. I'm Arbil, Awliad. Arbil, Kurdistan.
Okay.
Yes, I know all the Iraq.
Yeah, but Erbil is safe, right? No, I know, but I went to an Iraqi Airways, and you can actually go there. So.
I am no.
You don't think so? No?
Of the over 1.3 million refugees that arrived in Europe in 2015, Iraqi citizens were the 3rd largest group, with over 127,000 applying for asylum. In the same year, over 18,000 people flew in and out of Sweden with Iraqi Airways, with only one destination, Iraq. Regulations prevent anyone from boarding a plane without a visa, so that excludes any potential refugees with a one-way ticket from Iraq to Sweden. Germany's Federal Office for Migration and Refugees reports that refugees are returning to countries such as Syria, Afghanistan, and Lebanon for holiday purposes. In England, this refugee collected £10,000 in welfare benefits while on a 7-month holiday in Syria. The sad truth is that most of the real refugees don't have the resources to pay smugglers the thousands of dollars it costs to get to Europe. They are stuck in border camps near the war zones. The UN reports a gap of $4.6 billion in the funding required to care for the approximately 4 million Syrians in neighboring countries. Germany alone spent 9 times that amount on the refugees and migrants resettled inside Germany. It costs $3,000 per refugee in Jordan to provide food, water, and education for a year. Germany is spending $30,000 per refugee to do the same. Essentially, for every migrant we attempt to settle in Europe, we could be helping 10 actual refugees in the war zone. On August 25, 2015, Germany's Office for Migration and Refugees announced we are at the present no longer enforcing Dublin procedures for Syrian citizens. When the news sunk in, it triggered a million-man march through Europe as migrants and refugees rushed to claim their spot in Europe's richest nation.
Welcome to Germany. How do you feel? People applauding the refugees.
Hearts soared across Europe as thousands of volunteers lined up to welcome the new arrivals. It was a party atmosphere with balloons, selfies, and refugee welcome signs. Like Obama's Yes We Can, Chancellor Merkel's We Can Do It took on a life of its own. Mutter Merkel was a rock star among the refugees. She even made it to the front cover of Der Spiegel.
As a regular German, I mean, do you see a difference from now, past these few years? What has changed in, for instance, Leipzig?
It's dangerous for a woman in Leipzig now. When you go out, when it's dark and in der Straßenbahn beispielsweise, in the train.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
According to the Interior Ministry, 2015 saw an increase of 14.3% in murder and manslaughter, 12.7% in rape and sexual assault, and 9.9% in aggravated assault.
It was last year in summertime. We went shopping to the grocery market, and when I stood in front of the cashier, I looked outside the window and saw my daughter, and an African was talking to her.
Yeah.
So it seems okay because there was no aggressive stuff between them. When I left the grocery market, the African went in. So I asked my daughter what happened, and she told me, he asked me how old I am, if I'm alone, or where my parents are, where I live, and if I like to go with him. So, I got goosebumps.
In Chemnitz ist ein 7-jähriges Mädchen am Abend mit ihrem Fahrrad unterwegs. In einem Park wird sie plötzlich von einem unbekannten Mann angehalten. Direkt neben diesem Spielplatz soll der Mann dem Mädchen dann den Mund zugehalten und sie vom Rad gezerrt haben. Danach vergewaltigte er die 7-Jährige.
Das Mädchen sprach von südländischem bzw. nordafrikanischem Typ.
I think you can, as a woman and with children, you can't go out.
Yeah.
At kindergarten, it's very, was heißt denn gefährlich?
Dangerous.
Dangerous. Yeah. It's very dangerous. You can not in a city where 300 people, 1,000 refugees. That's terrible.
Every little town where's a migration center, the women are afraid of going out, leaving the house by night time or by sunset. They're afraid to go alone. Yeah.
Because they're basically afraid to get gang raped by.
Yeah.
Who do you have most of here in Leipzig? Do you get families or single men who come up here?
Single men.
Single men?
Yes. Young men, no?
Young men.
Single men. 20, 30 years.
Between 20 and 30. Yeah, that's what I've seen all over Europe.
Yeah.
All over Europe. Where are you guys from?
Syria.
Syria? Oh, yeah. Where did you come from?
For me?
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from in Syria.
Syria? Yeah, but did you come by yourself?
Yeah.
Only you?
Yeah.
Okay. Your family's back in Syria, or?
Yeah.
No, I mean your family. Are they gonna come to Denmark?
My family.
No, they stay in Iraq.
Yes, me one.
Yeah. Okay, you by yourself.
No family.
Only men come up here. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
عندي لهم غضب كبير بهذا الشيء انهم طلعوا لبرا لانه نحن هون بازمه كبيره.
والله غلط ما غلط الواحد يدشر بلده غلط يعني صعب الواحد يدشر بلده واهله.
Yeah, how's it going, man? Where are you guys from? Syria too?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that Trump, he might be sending troops into Syria?
I think it's very good.
Yeah, it's good? It doesn't concern you that he might blow up a lot of stuff? No? I'm like walking around here saying that you should all come with me.
Syria?
Yeah, you guys should come with me. So you should come with me to Syria and we'll fight Daesh.
Fight who?
Daesh.
No.
No, you don't want to fight Daesh?
According to Danish law, I cannot. And if I can,
Yeah.
I flee Syria
Yeah.
because of the war.
Yeah.
I'm a civilian.
No, I understand that. That's because I understand that in Syria it's the women who fight, but you have some of the women down there fighting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Syria.
Yeah, Syrian women
Yeah, yeah.
fighting. So if they're fighting, shouldn't you be fighting too? Shouldn't you, if they fight, shouldn't you fight too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, what I'm saying is that instead of being here, because I've seen a lot of men here, like all those men from Syria, shouldn't they go back to Syria and fight for their freedom instead of being up here?
Not all. Not
No?
all people. No.
Not all should fight. No.
والله حرام عليه يعني تركوا البشر هون اكثريتهم اجزاء لازم يعني عم يجوا عالم من برا مشان ينقذونا وهن عم يطلعوا لبرا والله.
What? Sorry?
You don't want to go back and fight in Syria?
No. Why should I?
Why not? So you just want to like give up then, or?
No. I think there is no solution except.
There's no solution. But I mean,
there is one solution.
What's that?
Nuclear weapon.
Nuclear weapon.
Yes.
But that's going to bomb everything.
No, just tactic.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
massive
know.
one like Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah. But then if you throw a nuclear bomb, you're going to kill a lot of civilians.
I am happy that I am not the one who has to take this decision.
Yeah, but you understand, right? If you throw a nuclear bomb, you're going to kill a lot of civilians. Because that's what happened in Japan. It did end the war, but it killed a lot of civilians.
There is no other way.
There's no other way. Well, it's a good thing you're up here then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, man. Okay, have a good day. Hey.
Of the 1.3 million who arrived in 2015, over 73% were male. The arrival of overwhelmingly male migrants is causing a dangerous gender imbalance in Europe.
In the train station, there was many attacks to women from refugees. Many refugees take drugs and alcohol.
Dann ist es sehr gefährlich, weil die unberechenbar sind.
That's dangerous.
So at nighttime, do you ever go down to this area at night?
No.
No.
Never.
Never.
Velkommen til Dagsrevyen. Alle overfallsvoldtektene i Oslo i fjor ble begått av menn med ikke-vestlig bakgrunn, viser en rapport politiet la fram i dag.
Det betyr at samtlige overfallsvoldtekter med kjent gjerningsmann de siste 5 årene begått av menn av utenlandsk opprinnelse.
It's Middle East and Africa. And why? Well, you can discuss why, but it's a cultural thing. They view women differently, for instance. They view the use of violence and force differently, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of reasons behind it, but that's what happens in all countries. I mean, we can go to France, we can go to London, we can go to Holland, you name it. The pattern is exactly the same anywhere you go.
Train stations in particular are becoming a dangerous place for women.
There is a huge responsibility when you have an editor's job, for instance, or a journalist's job, because you decide who you're talking to, you decide what sources you read or interview, and you decide how you decide to publish that story. Who will take up the majority of space in your article? Are you going to publish positive stories, negative stories? That's a huge responsibility. And the bridge between what's happening in any society and the voters, the electorate, that's the media.
In Leipzig, have there been many cases of, for instance, attacks and rapes here?
I don't know. Die Medien erzählen es auch nicht. Also wenn man
There's no, you don't read anything in the newspaper or in the television about this problem.
Yeah.
You only know this when you read the police ticker in the internet. Yeah.
So do you trust the media?
No.
No.
I don't trust media.
Journalists have been part of the elite, so they collude with the politicians. There's a horrible example from the rapes that went on a couple of years ago at New Year's Eve in Cologne. But it was not only in Cologne, it was all over Germany and even in Sweden, where it came out that the authorities asked the police to tell the journalists not to tell who perpetrated these crimes. And they were all immigrants and refugees and whatever you call them. But they kept it hidden because it was very inopportune for the politicians to tell the truth. And it was very important for them that the public didn't know who perpetrated these atrocities.
I wanted to know why the entire German media initially failed to report on the Cologne attacks. I got my chance to get the answer when I was invited to an AfD press conference in Berlin. The conference room was full of journalists, and I decided to approach some of them.
A lot of people feel that the media was very slow to report what happened in Cologne that New Year's. Why do you think that it took so long for the media to report on what actually happened?
I think it's often forgotten that on that night there was a suspected terror attack in Munich. I don't know if you were in Germany at the time, but this terror attack in Munich, or suspected terror attack in Munich, drew all of the attention.
It's very, very complicated, because if you look at it, it happened in the night before New Year. Many people are on holiday. Many journalists are also on holiday. We have only a little number of journalists who are working these days.
German public broadcaster ZDF has acknowledged that it delayed reporting on the wave of sexual assaults. ZDF chief editor Elmer Thevessen would go on to state, "The news situation was clear enough. It was a mistake of the 7 p.m. Heute show not to at least report the incidents." But was this just an editorial mistake, or was this part of a larger effort by the government to suppress the nature of the attacks and, more importantly, the identity of the perpetrators?
Journalists tend to support Chancellor Merkel's refugee policy throughout the media, not just at WDR. Some journalists, including me, tried to pitch more critical stories, but they were not approved.
Rape is a big topic in Germany. Do you, as a reporter, think it's relevant to report if it's committed by a foreigner or not?
It depends, because there are normally not. Normally it depends. It's not relevant because it's a crime.
Yeah.
And for a woman who's raped, it's no difference if she's raped by a foreigner or by a German.
Why do you think it's important for an indigenous girl to know the full story and the ethnicity behind these rapes going on?
It's self-protection. End of story.
I mean, it's a knowledge, the knowledge that will save you. If you don't know anything, then you will think like they are like everyone else. They're not, because in their mind, and they think that they have a right to do this. They have a right to insult me because I don't cover myself.
She needs to know if you're invited to a party with these 2-3 guys, that the chance of you ending up being a rape victim is relatively high. Why shouldn't she know that?
Maybe that knowledge would have stopped this Swedish woman from going into a cabin with Somali migrants and getting gang raped. Maybe this family would not have opened their home to the refugee who ended up raping their 10-year-old daughter. Maybe this girl wouldn't have been gang raped for 3 hours live on Facebook. Oh my God. Maybe knowledge would have stopped this mother of 2 from going to a party at an asylum center and getting gang raped by a dozen refugees, by a dozen refugees, by a dozen refugees, by a dozen refugees.
The politicians and the media, the established media, they must face up to the truth now. They must report and react to the consequences of multiculturalism now.
Then maybe we can save women.
Do you trust the media?
Personally? I try to get all the information I want by other media, from outside Germany, especially from outside of Europe. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Social media is playing a bigger and bigger role in reporting what the mainstream media won't.
They have not told the full story, so and that's transparent now. Because the problems is blooming all over Europe. You have no-go zones, you have rape epidemics, you have all kinds of problems which are a consequence of the policies led by the mainstream politicians and partly not being described by colluding media. So now you see new media blossoming, and we did not. We are not coming out of a vacuum. We are here for a reason, because we are here to correct what have been missing from journalism in Europe.
Since then, Germany's interior minister has proposed to establish a defense center against disinformation, against what they term political disinformation and fake news. Trump's election caused an uproar in Europe, with officials in Berlin scrambling to evaluate if social media would have an effect on the upcoming German election.
Do you think that the reason why Merkel and the government wants to shut down these so-called fake news stories, do you think they're afraid of a repeat in Germany?
Well, of course they're afraid of a repeat. I don't think they have actually understood yet why Trump won. They haven't understood that a growing number of people simply doesn't believe main media anymore. And of course, their urge to censor the internet, to get rid of so-called fake news is in fact the wish or the attempt to avoid independent reporting besides the national media.
It's like reading Eric Blair, that's actually George Orwell's real name. They're trying to shut them down. They're basically trying to close down a lot of these alternative media. You see it via EU, the European Union. There have been legislation attempts to officially be able, so the government officially could close down some of these outlets. Censorship is now something they're contemplating. And you know about the social media collusion between Facebook and the German government.
In September 2015, Chancellor Merkel was caught on a hot mic asking Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg what could be done to censor people writing what she deemed inappropriate things on Facebook. Facebook has since announced that they are hiring an additional 3,000 new employees to form a community operations team. Their job will be to remove posts that are flagged hate speech by third-party fact-checkers.
You know, hate speech has no place on Facebook.
One story deemed hate speech was a story posted by Gatestone reporter Ingrid Carlquist. She was suspended by Facebook for posting a video highlighting rape statistics in Sweden.
And honestly, until recently in Germany, I don't think we were doing a good enough job, right? And I think we will continue needing to do a better and better job.
And in Germany now, they're really cracking down on social media, on Facebook. They are really cracking down everywhere, it would seem.
The Secretary of Justice, who's a Social Democrat, set up a foundation that is thought or that is wanted to fight fake news, and the head of this foundation is a former Stasi agent, Annette Kahane.
It's an ex-proper murderous secret police woman. And
Annette Kahane worked as an informer for Stasi between 1974 and 1982 under the codename Victoria. She submitted secret monthly reports on the political reliability of fellow students, journalists, actors, and writers that she mixed with.
And the woman that hired her ultimately is Angela Merkel. And of course, Angela Merkel went to the Karl Marx University in Leipzig, and she was a member of the Communist Youth League, and here she is leading Europe, hiring ex-Stasi agents.
Annette Kahane, well known in Germany if you want to know her, and all journalists in Germany know her, they just don't talk about it.
I don't really know anything to say about that, I'm sorry. How come? Is that thing running?
The thing that you were saying earlier.
I don't want to be on record.
It's so transparent, and I'm really amazed that a lot of the bosses of the big media, they have not reacted, but it has not been a big issue from the mainstream media what's happening about the attempts to stifle free speech and actually do censorship, which is the only way they can react, obviously, because they don't want to recognize what's happening.
Har vi no-go zones i Danmark?
Jamen altså ifølge Rigspolitiet, der var en rigspolitichef som var ude og sige, at det har vi. Vi har også områder, vi har jo oplevet, at når ambulancer og brandbiler skal ind i nogle af de her områder, jamen, så skal de have politieskorte med. Og det er jo dybt problematisk.
Brandmændene følte sig så truet, at de opgav og kørte fra stedet, men også der blev de angrebet af kanonslag.
Men de har brandbiler derude, de har kastet med sten på politibilerne.
Hvorfor tror du, de gør det?
Jamen, de viser jo, at de respekterer ikke politiet.
There have been incidents of police stations being sprayed with automatic gunfire, court buildings attacked, hospitals ransacked, and the police ambushed by firebomb-throwing gang members on a weekly basis.
Så det er, nogle gange generede de bare politiet ved at ringe til dem, og så var det falsk alarm. Bare for at få dem derhen, og så til at slås med dem. Og så kørte de så videre igen, politiet, fordi at de ikke ville tage kampen med dem.
Vi starter først med småting. Til sidst har vi vores egen rygeklub. Og det andet, så har vi et helt territorium.
Hvad mener du med territorium?
Territorium, at vi overtager fucking Sjælland og København. Stille og roligt, Odense, Jylland, hele lortet bliver vores.
Thankfully, it isn't as intense in Denmark.
In Denmark?
Sweden right now.
Yet.
But that's what they're discussing right now. Is that like when they say it, they say that we could face like Swedish situations.
Yeah.
So I mean, we kind of.
Do you think it can escalate to that, or?
I mean, sure. Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden. They took in large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible.
We look forward to informing the U.S. administration about Swedish immigration and integration policies.
The bad things we've gotten under Trump, we're getting roasted by Swedes now. The Swedish chef is like, dude, even I don't understand a word you're saying. Like, I can't believe they elected this Snorgelyborg over there.
Stenkastning, läge rött, Rinkeby centrum, mitt i centrum, Hjälmar.
Sweden have huge immigration problems and it's forbidden to talk about them.
There is a political correctness in Sweden. We don't discuss your problems. You somehow move them under the carpet.
Because if you do talk about them, you're racist. It's better to pretend the problems does not exist. And that's a very Swedish response.
The notion or what they call no-go zones is just bullshit.
It's not that these areas are lost in any way. It's just that these 53 areas are vulnerable.
Yeah, men that's semantics. We just had the Swedish government putting up on a website a lot of myths about Sweden and immigration. And one of the myths that they wanted to debunk was that, is there no-go zones in Sweden? And they say, no. So they call them vulnerable areas, or now especially vulnerable areas.
Vulnerable areas in around the major cities of Sweden.
So when people say these places don't exist, they're lying, or?
They're lying. They're lying. They're lying. They do exist, and there is a Sharia police. It's not just in Rinkeby in Stockholm, but in Gothenburg, in Malmö. Those areas does not belong to Sweden anymore, in my opinion.
Just 1 week before President Trump's famous statements about Sweden, 30 immigrants beat 3 police officers with bottles, sending them to the hospital.
The police, they're trying to really tell me that no, we cannot go there because they were too scared. So they will avoid to go there. And when they go there, they've been kicked every time. Like last time, you know what happened.
In a suburb of Stockholm, police officers were bombarded with rocks and the police station firebombed. That same night, a hand grenade was thrown at a police bus full of officers.
Det bedömer ju som att situationen är ganska allvarlig som det ser ut nu. Det är ju vissa områden där vi håller på att tappa kontrollen.
This started 90s. from 90s till now. It's just, it's going very fast, very, very fast.
Oh, what the? This is part of the...
Yeah.
Like, well, we've heard a lot about car burnings in Sweden.
Barbecue, we call it.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Actually,
And they don't say
can you pull up? Can you pull up and we'll just actually...
I'll drive around?
Yeah, okay.
Just sit tight.
Yeah, okay.
You are so lucky, you know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, what happened there? Probably.
Yeah, probably is that immigrants do this kind of thing,
Yeah.
or Muslim immigrants do this kind of things, but
I'm assuming this is quite a common sight in these Swedish suburbs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we hardly drove, what,
And
2 minutes and, our first car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's happening. I mean, it's happening everywhere. It's burning. I think
Yeah.
Sweden is on fire
Yeah.
everywhere. And you should not say.
Yeah.
You should not mention the name immigrant or Muslim.
Yeah.
It's forbidden to say
Yeah.
that.
So you're basically saying this is probably not the last burned out car we're going to see on our way to...
There are many.
Yeah.
Believe me, there are
Okay.
What they are trying to do, and I'm not even sure if for all of them that it is a conscious actions or a conscious decision, but what is happening is that they are creating areas where secular law doesn't exist, and in this vacuum, the Islamic Sharia and also Islamic traditions, norms, values are then free to spread, and that influences the way that you have the view on women's freedom and security. Yeah, and what you get more and more is small Islamic states, which is maybe not publicly, formally declared an Islamic state with a caliph and so on, but this is in fact what they become.
In Nordbro, Copenhagen, a string of bars were threatened by immigrant gangs trying to impose Sharia law.
Saw a story about that the bars in Nørrebro have been like basically told that this is like Sharia country or something like that, and that they can't sell alcohol here or something like it. And I talked to the guys down at Hell. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and they said also this bar had been targeted.
I think it's about 4.5 years ago.
So do they also target the Muslim places though, or?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of it.
You haven't heard of any Muslim places
But
being
I
targeted?
just heard about the bars.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the Muslims don't run bars. No.
That should be a coffee place, maybe.
Yeah, right. Do you think in the future though, do you think it's gonna get more difficult to run businesses in areas like that, or like this, or?
Well, they're still here, like not here.
Yeah.
But they're still doing it, so I think it's gonna be more.
Yeah, more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gonna get more difficult.
Yeah.
Do you ever see it getting so difficult here that they might just say, you know what, enough is enough, we're just gonna close the bars? Like, do you think that's ever gonna happen, or?
No, I don't think they get that much power.
No, that much power. Danes want their beer.
We want our beer.
Okay.
We want our beer.
We want our beer.
We're gonna fight for it.
We're gonna fight for it. Sharia or not, we're gonna have our beer.
Yeah. Whatever.
That incident caused an uproar in Denmark and forced the government to intervene. So for now, the bars are safe in Copenhagen. However, in no-go zones all over Europe, ethnic Europeans are experiencing increasing levels of harassment and violence.
Das kommt raus, wenn man einem Ausländer sagt, er soll mich nicht als Bitch beschimpfen. Wenn man einem Ausländer sagt, er soll mich nicht anklotzen, Alter, und mich mit seinen Augen ausziehen. Liebe Leute, das ist Deutschland. Hier werden Frauen geschlagen, hier werden Kinder geschändet und entführt.
Playing this
term dominance crime and what's behind this?
Yeah, it happens on two levels. It happens on the, let's say, the level of society, and then it also happens between individuals on the street, where you would find that we in the West are much less aggressive than Islamic culture is, and it's completely normal. It's completely common knowledge on the street in Denmark that if you meet a group of Muslims, as a non-Muslim, you would prefer to walk either on the change the side of the street, walk on the other side of the street, or look into the ground, not in order not to somehow provoke an attack, physical attack on you.
However, acting submissive and looking to the ground is not always enough to shield you from a vicious attack.
In my old neighborhood of Vesterbro in Copenhagen, this woman and her boyfriend were beaten with chains simply for being Danish at the wrong place at the wrong time. And this couple was beaten by migrants simply for having pork on their pizza.
But I think we all, at least I have friends, and I think many friends here in Denmark, and I guess many places in West Europe have friends or themselves have tried to get beaten or pushed, or maybe just getting a shoulder in your own, towards your own body in such situations.
So what exactly are they trying to achieve with this aggression? Is it just to show that they're in control, or is that what it's about? Hence the dominance crime, or?
Well, talking with them I'm in this special position. I could talk with these people, and the way you talk with people when you're a psychologist, you can get on some quite deep levels when you talk with people. And the main impression you get when you really get into, let's say, deep talks with people from this culture is that it is imperative for them to be dominant.
And knowing who is dominant is something children all over Europe are learning at an early age.
At school with his son or daughter?
It's a son.
Mm-hmm. The son is 9 years old.
Die werden auch bevorzugt behandelt. Das ist wirklich so, das sagen auch die Kinder selber.
The refugees are over the German at school.
Und man merkt auch an der Mentalität, die schlagen eher zu.
And they are aggressive to the German children.
Sitzen sich immer dahin. Sind immer allein und so.
Und die anderen, wie gehen die mit denen um?
So, die schreien auf die, die treten die, die laufen rum, wenn die die sehen, geben die einfach Stelle, so aus Spaß.
Wir sind 4 Gruppen. Und wehren die sich, die Deutschen?
Nein, die haben Angst so.
They are being hunted by gangs of migrants who viciously beat them and proudly post it online. Do a random search on YouTube and see for yourself.
It's not a crime to hear at night. It's not someone who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken
And she don't see a future for his children, for her children here in this country.
Oder aber, dass sie totgeschlagen werden.
Oder that the children attacked by refugees or killed.
Yeah.
I found her on a field and he were abusing her. So I actually witnessed it. I witnessed him forcing her to give him oral sex.
And you say they as in plural, as in a lot of people? Or?
But the most that I've been told about was a young woman that was taken to a flat and she stopped counting at 36.
What? 30s?
6 adults, yeah, in one night. They actually then got a warrant, went in and found something like, I think it was 42 samples of sperm from the ceiling, the walls, do you know what I mean, different DNA samples.
I think that the government absolutely has to stop abandoning Rotherham.
Of what it calls the appalling abuse of at least 1,400 children over a period of 16 years.
Not shocked by the number as other people was, because, you know, those 1,400 we'd worked with, and, you know, and actually that was a low estimate.
It details children being raped, trafficked, beaten, and sometimes doused in petrol.
And you imagine a 10, 11-year-old being told, if you don't do what we ask you to do, we're going to rape your mum. Why would they not believe that when it's happening to them every night?
My daughter was removed. My niece actually got gang raped because she wouldn't tell them where her cousin were.
So the threats are real.
Yeah. But also the key thing for me is this is a national issue. This is going on all across the country.
Labour MP Sarah Champion estimates that there are over 1 million victims of grooming gangs in the UK.
The inquiry says almost all the perpetrators were of Pakistani heritage.
And I gave them a list of what my daughter had written, and she'd written the girls' names, the perpetrators' names, who'd done what to who. And I handed that to the police. I forgot what we were going to say now.
They whittled it down to 8 perpetrators and 5 young women.
When I asked what were going to happen to the other girls that were on this paper, they said we've got to cut it off somewhere.
Why?
And I just looked at him. I went, but what about them other girls?
Why would they cut it off?
And I said, what about the other men that have committed crimes? And he went, there's not what we can do because we'll just be seen as racist.
Even my abuser used to say to me, oh, it's alright, I'll just shoot your race card.
According to the now infamous J report of child sexual exploitation in Rotherham, the difficulties that prevent this issue of CSC being dealt with effectively is the ethnicity of the main perpetrators. The police dared not act against Asian youths for fear of allegations of racism.
We could put some very, very good intelligence in, but we're constantly told it wasn't evidence, it wasn't good enough. And then on the flip side of that, what we were being told by professionals that were working with the children is the children were making a choice. And they were facilitating, in some cases, their own abuse. Children don't facilitate their own abuse and don't choose to be abused, but it seems to be the only area that we've actually allowed that to happen, is around child sexual exploitation.
So basically the police and the authorities were basically saying that the kids were facilitating it?
It was, yeah, they'd made the decision, it was an informed choice.
So a 9-year-old kid, according to the police and the politicians, made a choice?
Yeah, an informed choice, yeah.
According to the authorities, these girls made an informed choice to be scratched, choked, beaten, branded, gang raped, sexually assaulted with knives and a baseball bat, raped with a broken bottle. A girl had her tongue nailed to the table when she threatened to tell.
I think I got really close to having a nervous breakdown. I couldn't process that there was this whole dark world going on, that girls in this town could go through such incredible horrors, that they go to the police, they go to the council, who are just turning a blind eye on them. That shouldn't happen in my town and that shouldn't happen in my country.
Not only did the city council turn a blind eye, the Sarah J. report mentions that some influential council members of Pakistani descent in Rotherham had acted as barriers in dealing with this issue.
Hello, I'm Councillor Jahangir Akhtar. What do you want protected?
As well, my abuser, it's him who's related to Jahangir Akhtar, who was, well, the councillor, he's not now, he's a...
Jahangir Akhtar is related to the Hussein family, who were one of the most active grooming gangs in Rotherham. Jessica's abuser, Arshad Hussein, is Jahangir Akhtar's cousin.
And when I went missing, the police and Jahangir Akhtar met with me and my abuser at a petrol station and passed me over. And again, he didn't get arrested, but he actually passed me over. Well, that's since been investigated by authorities, and he was cleared of all the wrongdoings. Apparently, because that's not a criminal offence, and they sometimes do that on odd occasions.
And you think that the relationship between the abuser and this politician probably helped him from not being arrested?
Definitely, yeah.
Jahangir Akhtar has since been accused by the victims of participating in the sexual abuse.
Like, what I was thinking of, and I know it's probably quite bad to say this, if it would have been 1,400 Muslim girls raped by white men, Rotherham would be on terrorist alert. Probably we would have been bombed.
Well, yeah.
And nobody wants to speak about it in case, oh God, you know, you're racist, you can't say that.
And have you guys ever been accused of being racist?
Yeah.
When I witnessed her abuse, I took my statement 2 days after, and I'm not racist because I've got coloured in family, don't bother me, and I just said, get off my daughter, you black bastard. And she said that they won't use me as a credible witness because I'd be classed as racist.
In fact, I remember actually one of my first interviews I did, and they said to me, why do you think, you know, it were covered up? And I said, I won't be able to say it on camera. She said, if it's, you know, out bad, we won't air it anyway. And all I said to her, I think it was because he were Asian. But I was even scared to say it because in Rotherham, you can't say anything bad about a Pakistani. I think the white race is way below, and everybody else gets, you know, favoritised over a white person, whether it to be with a criminal offence, with housing, with benefits.
And in this way, you could say that many people in the West are becoming a sort of second-class citizen in their own neighborhoods. Islamic scriptures even have a term for that. It's called a dhimmi status of a dhimmi. Yeah.
David Cameron keeps saying that we're Great Britain, and we're not Great Britain, we're just Britain.
Because you can't even fucking protect your own kids.
Exactly. And as well, I think that what the saddest thing is for me is that they don't actually want to protect them because they know exactly what's going on.
Sweden and Germany will find themselves in the future exactly the same way that Britain is in now, which is organised Muslim gang rape, which is then covered up by the British establishment.
Yeah, first in Sweden, in those areas, I mean, we were more free. But I saw that immediately that we Somalian, we were changing. We're not allowed to dress. The Imam says that we're not allowed to dress Somali tradition dress anymore. We should cover ourselves. People were practically forced into Sharia law.
That's exactly what happened to me. We've been forced to wear the hijab and the niqab. We've been covered head to toe. The hijab and the niqab, it's protection. It's for your protections and for women not to be sexually molested and all that.
For them, I think the hijab is a symbolic marker which separates the submissive, proper Muslim women from what they see as the Norwegian horse. But when I say horse, I'm really just referring to their own words. This is what they told the journalists.
This explains why 100% of assault rapes in Oslo are committed by migrants, and 90% of the victims are ethnic Norwegian girls.
Including 14-year-old Ava Helgeton, who was gang raped by 3 African migrants. One of the rapists was sentenced to a mere 344 hours of community service. Ava committed suicide 3 weeks after she was gang raped.
So here we have it, the East London Mosque. You can see people outside. There have been people outside praying outside the mosque rather than inside. They're all heading inside the mosque now. Some of them are coming out. So, welcome to East London.
Overnight, the images are apocalyptic.
London on fire, a wave of violence.
We don't want freedom! We want Islam and the Sharia!
Right, this area here, this is called the Whitechapel Road, and a couple of generations ago it used to be predominantly white working class. A lot of Jewish people were living in this area too. But of course, in the last couple of decades, the last few decades, many people have moved in from Bengal and other areas, a lot of Muslims, and it's pretty much a Muslim area now.
The changing demographics of England made headlines in 2016 when the Muslim population surpassed 3 million. Parts of London are almost 50% Islamic. The Muslim population has tripled since 1991, and Mohammed is now the #1 baby name in London.
The big change in Britain took place in the late 1990s with the advent of Mr. Blair's Labour government in 1997. They felt that a somewhat more open doors policy was appropriate to regard migration much more as an asset, both economic and cultural. And a number of changes were made both in administrative rules and also in legislation, which greatly facilitated immigration.
Right behind me here, we have the East London Mosque, which serves the largest Muslim community in the UK. It holds 7,000 people. Now this mosque has a very bad reputation. Andrew Gilligan of The Telegraph accuses it of being run by the Islamic Forum of Europe, which is an extremist organisation. They've had a number of notorious speakers there, hate preachers of various kinds. So it doesn't have a good reputation.
There's a risk that it will have a negative effect. It's certainly the case that in some minority groups, particularly from poor rural areas, where in poor rural agricultural areas it's normal for there to be a marked difference in equality between the sexes, and for society to be much more patriarchal, that insofar as those societies don't change and don't integrate, as they grow in numbers, then the problem will at least for a while become worse.
As we went out into the concourse, like to get out of the arena, there was just bodies scattered about everywhere.
22 people were killed, including children. Police said 12 children under the age of 16 were among them.
After these incidents, terrible, nasty right-wing people like me say, where are all the Muslims saying not in our name? We know that if you publish a picture of a cartoon, you can immediately have 100,000 raving Muslims on the streets. But if they murdering cold-blood children at a pop concert, you tend not to have any of them coming out on the streets afterwards saying not in our name. So CNN obviously decided that what they needed to do was to get some people saying not in our name and film them.
What I want to show you now, viewers, is a wonderful scene. These are Muslim mums turn to London, and I think a poignant scene, and a scene we should sit on just for you viewers to understand exactly how people feel here on the streets of London, so close to what were such brutal attacks last night.
It was after that one that CNN turned up and were organising a group of about 5 or 6 Muslim females. They were being manoeuvred into a position where they could be grouped together with a very tightly focused TV CNN crew there to try and make them look as though they were far more. And they didn't realise that other people were filming CNN, filming these Muslim women, and obviously organising them. It was not an impromptu thing. It was organised by CNN.
What was supposed to be a spontaneous protest looked more like a Hollywood movie set, with lights, producers, and actors receiving instructions from directors.
To use this kind of deliberate confusion, cover-up, the sort of watering down of the truth is something that is extremely unhealthy in a democracy.
My name is Sadiq Khan and I'm the Mayor of London.
Sadiq Khan made history when he became the first Muslim mayor of London in 2016. As the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan has pledged to be the British Muslim who takes the fight to the extremists. Yet he has also declared that he does not have the time to keep track of jihadists returning to London.
Because the Met Police budget, roughly speaking, 15% to 20% is funded by me, the mayor.
The rest comes from central government. If the Met Police budget is being shrunk and reduced, they've got to prioritise and use their resources in a sensible, savvy way.
What could be a bigger priority than people coming back from a Syrian battlefield with intent to harm British citizens?
Combating Islamophobia is a bigger priority. The mayor may not have the time or resources to keep track of returned jihadis, but the mayor has found £1.7 million to fight Islamophobia on the internet. Just 1 month after the Westminster attack, Sadiq Khan launched the London online hate crime hub.
I can't follow 400 people. What I can do is make sure
nobody really is able to say anything about Islam ever again. So it's extraordinary. One of the most extraordinary things which I came across the other day was a report by the London Metropolitan Police, 138 pages about Islamophobia. They list 8 things that the police have decided are redolent of Islamophobia. And one of them is apparently believing Islam to be a political ideology. So if you believe Islam as a political ideology, you're an Islamophobe in the eyes of the Metropolitan Police in Great Britain. And they classify that as a hate crime for which you can go to jail for 2 years.
What can also land you in jail is viewing Islam as violent, aggressive, threatening, and supportive of terrorism.
And I often wonder, you know, when you think about the Mutaween in Saudi Arabia, the religious police, these 8 things that the London Metropolitan Police have listed could have come out of the Mutaween handbook in Saudi Arabia. It is total Sharia compliant enforcement policing.
In Western Europe now, we do see laws coming into effect that actually criminalize people's writing and free expression on the internet in terms of writing about or simply opining about Islam or anything connected with Islam.
The EU are now taking steps to implement a plan that will place limitations on what its 500 million citizens can post online.
So what we're seeing is that even online, when people may post comments criticizing massive inflows of migrants, they are visited by the police, or they are warned against that kind of speech, or their accounts online on social media get suspended or shut down.
So what exactly is considered hate speech? In Germany, Michael Sturzenberger posted a photo from World War II showing a meeting between high-ranking Nazis and representatives of the Muslim world.
I showed this working together of the Nazis and Islam. And and today they said, hey, you posted a symbol of the Nazis, and so we judge you for 6 months. It's crazy.
Even satire mocking Merkel's immigration policy is being criminalized. At a carnival, the people behind this float with the text, "This is how traitors end up," are being investigated by the state attorney for subversion.
But really, free speech, as George Orwell said, is the right to say things people don't want to hear. In any dictatorship, it's always been permitted to laud the dictator, put up posters of Stalin and Hitler, etc. Free speech is really about things that are unheard of. Disastrous, and if you give up that notion, you no longer have free speech.
One of the main areas of conflict between national governments and the EU pertains to immigration and border security.
Og situationen i dag er den, at vi har midlertidig grænsekontrol, men den har vi kun på EU's nåde, så vores ministre, altså dem, som skulle bestemme i vores land, eller varetage danske interesser, de skal ned og stå skoleret i EU. Så EU har overtaget magten over, hvem der kommer ind i Danmark, og hvem vi har ret til
at udvise.
This has made it easier for migrants to enter, and also in some countries, especially, very difficult to remove those who are deemed not to be appropriate, not to have a well-founded claim for asylum. And of course, with the powerful rights which migrants enjoy through the European Convention, particularly if that's enshrined in law, as it is now in British law through the Human Rights Act, then restricting migration is very much more difficult. And in Britain, it would require a very substantial revision of policy, particularly regarding the EU, before this can be brought under control, in my opinion.
For the past decade, the European Court of Human Rights has effectively prevented member states from deporting criminals and convicted terrorists.
I come here, I never thought that I will get it to make a mosque here and open a mosque here. I say, subhanallah, I leave my country there, I live in a camp, and it's very difficult life there, and I now come here, comfort life, very nice life. My children in school, I have a car, I have everything, and all of that, and I have helped to open this mosque, and I see the Muslims here come back to their religion. Oh, alhamdulillah, thanks for God. So it's very good. And you know, it's for me, it's a kind of jihad, you know.
In recent years, European human rights judges have blocked more than 900 attempts by Britain to deport terror suspects and foreign criminals.
Det er simpelthen ikke rimeligt, at folk kan komme hertil og begå kriminalitet, og vi så ikke kan sige, så må du rejse hjem igen. Det burde være helt naturligt. Når jeg taler med folk om det her, så er der rigtig mange, der siger, er det ikke allerede sådan? Nej, det er det ikke.
Wherever you look, wherever you turn, they're everywhere, literally everywhere, and I'm going to shoot most of this from the car because I just don't want to go outside because it's so dark. I just don't want to be standing out there and not being able to see what's coming up behind me because, I mean, the police said it in their poor French. They basically said, you know, at night, don't go there, and they just basically went like this. I'm going to assume that means a bad thing.
Since the 1990s, mass immigration has been facilitated through the policies of many left-leaning governments in Europe. According to Andrew Neither, former advisor to Tony Blair, mass immigration was the way that the government was going to make the UK truly multicultural. During the Labour government's 10 years in power, some 2.3 million migrants were admitted into England.
The reason that they wanted so many people from the non-Western world to come in was primarily because they're all going to be voting Labour.
There are a large number of Labour MPs, for example, and this is particularly important when Labour was in power, who owe their position to a considerable extent to the presence of immigrant minorities, particularly from the Indian subcontinent.
So you had moderate communists, let's call them moderate communists, that wanted a sort of socialist voting bloc in perpetuity.
Enhedslisten, de vil heller ikke nogensinde få deres drømmesamfund, men det er, hvad kan man sige, the lesser of the two evils. Ja. Men hvem ved, måske ser vi et nyt politisk parti dukke op efter sommerferien.
Ja, de kommer jo i nyerne, ikke? Men altså, det er jo...
Ja, men jeg tror, der kommer et seriøst politisk parti efter sommerferien, som en tale muslimernes sag.
Ja.
Once the Muslims have the numbers, the very first people they will deal with will be the socialists and the communists and the liberals and the left. So, as they did in Iran in 1979. But at the moment, the socialists and the leftists are too stupid to realise this, so they are backing Islam to the hilt all the time.
I used to be a left-winger on the far left back in the day, but I must admit that they have absolutely lost. They have lost it, basically. They don't understand what's happening in the world, which is strange to me, because I've read Marx and Engels and others, and it's clear to me what is happening. They do not understand that they are digging their own graves.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
According to the United Nations, the population of Africa will increase by 1.2 billion people by the year 2050, and Austrian military intelligence predicts that already by 2020, up to 15 million migrants will make their way to Europe.
These people, they will be in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, the UK, France for good. You cannot, send them back. How would you do that? That would take some very austere measures that I don't want to even to think about. You cannot rewind the development. This is unique, whether you like it or not.
So, okay, so where are you all from? Eritrea? What about the rest of you? All Eritrea? Yeah, all Eritrea. Okay. Right. Okay, and you want to go to England, right? Yeah. I hear a lot of English people say that England is full. They can't fit anymore. It's not true? What do you say to the English people who say they don't want you there? You're gonna come anyways? Is that what you all say? You're gonna come anyways? Yeah. We go. Nobody will stop you. Nobody will stop you. Okay. Okay.
How long can they keep a lid on that is the question, because it's going to become startlingly apparent to the average man in the street over the next decade that, listen, this is not just a problem. This is a civilizational ending problem. This is the end of our country. This is the end of our 1,000, 3,000, 2,000 year evolution to get to a Western civilization. This is the end of it.
You can be sure, and I have to warn you, that it doesn't matter how you produce and how you cut this documentary. You have to know that you will be labeled a Nazi or a racist just because you made this movie. So I have to warn you, watch out.